This owner of the blue BMW had stopped at a service station, but he had no idea the nightmare that was about to follow. The robbers had noticed him, and they decided to press the man. At first, they were focused on what the man had on him, but things were about to get much worse. The leader noticed that the vehicle was still running, and this was a huge mistake the owner had made. They were now targeting his prized possession. They managed to start the car, and it was beyond painful for the owner to watch as these culprits drove off with the vehicle. This driver had just arrived home, but he was being followed by some extremely dangerous people. He was even hesitant for a bit there after noticing a car right behind. This is why it's important to not stop just as you get home when you suspect something like this, mostly in South Africa. It's recommended to drive off and circle the block just to make sure there is no tail. They were now overwhelming the owner as this escalated. Once these culprits have the upper hand, it is highly recommended to always comply to avoid being shot by these trigger-happy group. They managed to remove the man from the vehicle, as this was now both a hijack and a kidnapping. These culprits are known for taking both the victims and the property. They then demand ransom money from the relatives. Unfortunately, in this case, they succeeded in executing this disturbing act. This man was driving a high-end vehicle highly sought after by these culprits. They were following him, staying right behind the man until he reaches home. Once he stopped, they made sure to block his possible exit route. And this is the same tactic these culprits always use in the scenarios. They were now all over the vehicle demanding for the owner to exit. These situations can be beyond overwhelming, and the added unpredictable nature of these culprits makes this more eerie. They tried to force the owner into the getaway vehicle, but the man stood his ground, knowing the consequences of giving in there. He finally managed to separate himself from the situation, but the ordeal was far from over. The culprits were now getting ready to escape, with the owner watching every bit of this unfortunate situation. One of the culprits who had been left behind managed to leave the scene with a high-end vehicle. Fortunately, the owner was left in one piece, as we see him walk towards his home to try and get help. This was at a mall where this couple was loading their groceries. They were being monitored by an individual waiting for the slightest opportunity to pounce. The man finally decided to approach the couple, and what happened next was utterly shocking. The next clip starts with this man pretending to be on a call. He had targeted a lady walking with her groceries, and he was now curating a plan to try and rob the lady in broad daylight. The woman was oblivious to the danger lurking just yards away as she concentrated on loading her groceries. By the time she realized what was happening, it was a little too late. The two shameless culprits managed to escape the scene with some of the woman's valuables. Fortunately, she was left physically unharmed. In this scenario, the robbers had targeted a delivery truck. The truck was being escorted by a team of private security personnel. The robbers first targeted the security team. They first shot up the private security truck with an automatic rifle to try and overwhelm the private cops. They then went straight to the delivery truck and emptied the van in broad daylight. The final video shows how these culprits can be calculated and why vehicles carrying valuables should not tolerate any suspicious behavior on the road. We first see a man wearing a police uniform exiting a vehicle stopped right in the middle of the road. He then goes to the local shop in the area. The vehicle had been placed there for a devious reason. What was about to happen next was beyond disturbing. We then see a cash and transit van approaching, and the man goes straight into action. The second vehicle in the act came from nowhere, blocking the way as the heist began. The guards noticed what was happening, and they started firing at the culprits, but they were outnumbered in this scenario with no backup at all. They were now being chased by these culprits leaving the van on the road. This must have been an inside job, as these robbers knew exactly when the truck would pass through this area. The culprits were now preparing the explosives to access the money inside the truck. These trucks are heavily targeted in South Africa. Once the explosives were ready, they moved away from the truck and exploded the